Lauren and Jake Solomon, thanks for joining me this evening. Chris Rysack with ABC Financial Planning Corporation. Really appreciate you taking the time out of your evening. I know you guys have 3 young kids at home. Actually, I do too. Mine are a little younger than yours. But it's just an important part of the process that we can meet and discuss and go over recommendations for what's going to help solidify your financial future. So to take a step back, we are already knee-deep into the planning process, and I want to do a quick review of where we stand. Okay, so we've already done the first step of the financial planning process, which is to establish and define the client-planner relationship. How often that you as clients and myself as the planner will meet, what that engagement looks like, the types of topics that we'll cover. Now, step 2, big thank you, because you've already done this part, which is to gather the information necessary to help me fulfill my engagement as the financial planner. So I really appreciate, I know that you got me a ton of information about salaries, benefits, retirement savings, investment properties, and there's a lot to go over, and we will cover it all. What I've been doing prior to this meeting was step 3, which is analyzing and evaluating your status, your current status as my clients. And what we've met here tonight to do is the first part of step 4, which is to develop and communicate the recommendations that I've come up with for you as clients. Okay, going forward, okay, we will also work to implement these recommendations, which is step 5, and then step 6, monitor the recommendations. Finally, step 7, which is more something internally that I'll work on, is to make sure that I handle each step of the process within the Certified Financial Planner standards of practice, codes of conduct, and the fiduciary responsibility that I'm held to as a CFP certificate. Okay, so today's focus, like I said, is going to be around developing and communicating recommendations. In this case, I want to focus specifically around retirement planning and funding. Okay, so if you take a step with me over to the whiteboard, okay, we're going to begin by jumping in, talking, Jake, about your situation. Okay, I know that you guys are, Lauren, you're a state grad, and Jake, you run the legendary Harry's Bar and Grill, which is a state institution. Gotta say, it makes me a little uncomfortable being a tech grad myself, being in quote-unquote enemy territory, but listen, good wings and burgers are good wings and burgers, so I really appreciate you having me over to Harry's the other night. I definitely enjoyed my meal, and don't tell my friends, but it's actually one of my favorite spots in town, even as a tech grad. So having said that, let's jump into the idea of a set versus a simple for Harry's. Okay, you asked me to do a pros and cons list between the two, and I've done that for you. So what the SEP IRA, the self-employment IRA, what that will do for you from a positive standpoint, very, very streamlined. There's not a lot of forms to set it up. There's just one that's called an IRS Form 5305, and it also offers you the maximum flexibility in terms of making contributions. So for example, in 2018, you set the plan up for this year, you actually could fund it all the way to your tax filing deadline plus extensions into next year. So there's a ton of flexibility there. But on the downside, all the funding is done from the employer standpoint. So there's no salary deferral portion in a SEP IRA, which is a downside for the employees because they can't count on it as a sole vehicle to fund their retirement because all employer contributions are discretionary every year. Okay, now personally, I think this plan also does not fit because you told me that you want to create an incentive program to give your full-time employees at Harry's skin in the game, which is incentive to contribute to retirement. Okay, so having said that, I think what we should do is turn the page and focus. My recommendation to you is going to be to implement the SIMPLE IRA, and I want to explain exactly why that is. Okay, first of all, it has the salary reduction component that you're looking for, and that has scale. So in this tax year 2018, you can contribute $12,500 towards a SIMPLE IRA. Okay, and I know you're a young guy, you're 37. As this plan grows and evolves, the limits are set for review every year to increase. But also, when you or any of your full-time employees hit 50, they allow for what's called a catch-up contribution, which this year is actually $3,000 additional if you have anybody over 50. It also allows for flexible employer contributions. And what I mean by that is that you can do two formulas. You could either do an employer match, which is up to 3%, or a non-discretionary contribution of 2%, where everybody gets it just, it's part of the plan. Now for you, I'd recommend taking advantage of the match, because like you said, you want the employees to have skin in the game, have an incentive to save. But even on the match, you get some flexibility. So you can match up to 3% of their contributions, meaning if your full-time cook puts in 3%, you would give 3%. But if times are tight in a year, you have the ability to back that down and match as little as 1% of compensation in no more than 2 of the 5 years. Okay, so if sales are off a little bit in a year, you can back it off some and still be completely within legal grounds for running the plan. Speaking of being within legal grounds of running the plan, there are specific eligibility rules within a simple IRA, which is great because you said you want to focus on the full-time employees. Okay, so here, what you can do is allow the full-time employees to participate, but you can exclude the part-time college kids just, working here to have some extra spending money. And you can do that by time in service at the role, or you can say that you need to make a compensation above a certain figure. I believe the highest figure for cutoff is $5,000 per year. So you can actually, anybody under 5K, you can say you can't participate. All right, now on the downside, there is, in case anybody needs money out of the plan, a withdrawal prior to 59.5, you really get a haircut from a simple because it's a 25% penalty. Okay, and there is a little bit more administrative work required on your end in terms of getting the contributions over to the carrier. But a lot of the discount brokerages these days, like your Vanguards, T. Rowe Prices, and Charles Schwab, actually allow for like an EFT, so you could link a business checking account and just send the money over per employee electronically. So that'll cut out some of the paperwork. All right, so to recap, what I would say, Jake, for you is definitely focus on the simple because it's going to allow you the flexibility that you're looking for. Now, I want to change the page real quick.